From the Wayne County Courthouse in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne Goldsboro Television brings you the meeting of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. The meeting begins shortly with an agenda briefing, then the regular meeting will begin soon after. Please stand by for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Call to order our agenda meeting for November the 15th. We're going to go through our agenda. We're going to have the invocation this morning by Commissioner Ed Cromartie. Pledge of Allegiance by John Bell. We will have the approval of the minutes and adjustments of agenda. Mr. Wood, I think you had several.
We have two adjustments. I thought there were three, but one's already on there. We just got the information in. The first thing is I've given you information here at your desk. This is on the awards for the RFP debris clearing and removal services. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. I've given you that. This is a memo from Noelle Woods. She and Mel have been working on this. We got 4 bids, and the low bidder is Custom Tree Care out of Topeka, Kansas, believe it or not, at $74 a ton. This is the same company that's doing the debris removal for the city.
Is this item 3 on our?
Yes, it's item 3. Right. So I wanted to go over that with you. Does anybody have any questions? Again, we got 4 bids, so we were able to open them. None of them were local except A&K Grading out of LaGrange, but they were the third highest. So our recommendation is that you go with Custom Tree Care at $74 a ton.
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
How soon can you get started?
Just as soon as we finish today, we can
Okay.
give them a notice, because we do need to get going on this.
Okay.
And that's why we wanted to add it in. We didn't get the bids until either yesterday or Friday, or Thursday, but we want to move forward. Okay. The next thing is we want a motion to approve Amendment 3 to the guaranteed maximum price contract with TA Loving in the amount of $10,969,002. I've given you this memo, which should be in front of you, dealing with that.
And that's item 9 on our agenda.
Let's see. Yes, item 9 under old business.
Okay.
Have we put it on there? It's item 9 there. Yeah, okay, so it's already on there. Okay. We had a meeting with them, I think it was Wednesday. Bill Pate, Noel, and Kendall and I met to go over everything. And this takes care of all the bids. As you know, we still had a number of them outstanding. So this takes care of all the bids. I'd like to walk you through this. Several attachments. The first is a 3-page list of value engineering items that were reviewed last week by us. At the bottom of the 3rd page, you'll see that we have accepted $777,042 of savings changes. Does everybody see that in red ink at the bottom? In brackets on the 3rd page of that spreadsheet, where it says accepted amount. That means you've accepted those value engineering items. There's an additional $63,400 in savings that is pending, but if accepted, that would be handled by a change order. And when you apply the percentages due for the construction manager at risk at the $777,042, the actual savings increases to $891,890. So if you go to the next page, you'll see how that comes in. They show you the amendment number 1, which was the $3,052,446 that you've awarded. The next amendment was the $4,442,223. This would be the $10,969,000, and that equals not the $19,355, but the $18,463,671, because the bid costs were reduced by $891,890. You'll see that the underlying items are for minus $777,041. But then remember that their fees are based on the cost of the project. So you get a reduction in those fees as well. So those are the three reductions there. Two of them. One of them is a permit fee to the city of Goldsboro. So in essence, we got $891,890 of savings from the value engineering. So the total construction price would be $18,463,671. Behind that is the letter from T.A. Loving making this recommendation, and it has all the numbers we talked about. Now on this chart, it showed $10,969,001. This shows 002. That's a rounding error. Okay. Behind that is the actual AIA document. This is the change order to the contract, which includes these dollar figures. Okay. So that's everything that we have. If you'd like, we can go through these savings items.
No,
Anybody
that's
wants to
okay.
do that?
Does anybody care to go through all those saving times? They're right there listed, and they can go through that.
I went ahead and sent this out to you, I believe it was Thursday, so you'd have a chance to look at it. Nothing changed. I sent you a quick email yesterday. Nothing changed on it. It's as we agreed to.
Mr. Wood,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
is there a list someplace of all of the subcontractors?
We can get that for you. They have it. We didn't list the subcontractors, but on this page, this has a list of all of the contracts, but it doesn't have the contractor.
Did we have any minority contractors, or did any apply?
Yes,
Do we-
yes.
I guess the first question, do we have any?
Yes,
We do.
yes.
And I'd like, that's why I want to see, that's what I want to see in county, out of county, minority, non-minority, just,
We'll be submitting a formal MDE package that shows all the percentage of minorities that did the project versus the percentage of minorities that got an award. And then we'll also be going to the prime subcontractors to find out what the minorities on the second tier supplier side is. So that'll have that also.
Okay.
thank you,
We'll submit that, we'll get that to you.
thank you.
The one other thing, and this is not on your agenda packet, we would need to add under new business.
So it would be item 11.
Item 11. This is, I've given you a handout there. Late last week, we got a proposal from W.K. Dixon. As y'all recall, we've been talking about adding some corporate hangars out of the airport, particularly since we leased to UNC Healthcare. We now don't have any more corporate hangars available. So you should see a packet like that. Says
I don't
work-
think I do too.
It's
There.
up here on the page.
Work authorization number 3.
Okay, yes.
Okay, has everybody got it?
Yes, sir.
Huh? Yeah. Okay, so we took this to the Airport Advisory Board last night. As y'all know, we've been talking about where we could add some additional hangars. And the existing plan, airport layout plan, showed an area where we would put these items. And so if we go to this sheet in there, it's about 8 to 9 pages in.
Well,
And they're gonna go into more detail with you. They're here. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that's a better idea. If you go to these 2 sheets, I gave you 2 sheets, colored sheets, that are separate. If you go to those, the first one Everybody got this one?
Yep.
This first one, where that green ink is, that's where we had originally proposed it. There may be some wetlands issues in there, but they're gonna check it. If we can't use that, then they're proposing another site which is on the other side of our existing T hangers, and that's the second sheet. Everybody see that? And this would be big enough to accommodate 4 100 by 100 hangars. Now, the committee talked about making at least one of them maybe bigger than that, like 120 by 100, and maybe even 2 of them, but that'll be determined later. We're gonna have W.K. Dixon look at that. But that's kind of an overview. They're here, they're gonna give you, or they'll be here at 9, excuse me, and they'll give you a more in-depth presentation on it. But that's basically where we're at. Again, I think we all discussed this a month or so ago as we were finalizing the lease on UNC Healthcare, that we need to have some more corporate hangars. We have at least 3 companies that have expressed interest in building one out there. And so we really need to move forward with this if we're going to try to add those.
So that item is actually to approve the contract for Professor?
Yes, and the thing I should have stressed at the beginning is that on the cost, it's $119,686, but 90% of that is the state. County share is $12,100. We would use Eastern Region funds that we've already set aside for capital for the airport. And I've got the motion written for whoever is ready to make it. It does need to say, subject to North Carolina Division of Aviation, County Attorney, and County Manager approval, because once you agree to it, if you agree to it, then we've got to submit it to Division of Aviation. They might tweak it a little bit rather than slow us down another 2 weeks, bring it back. If y'all would authorize Board and I to make those slight modifications if they come in, then we could go ahead and execute it.
All right, so my understanding is you are writing up the motion, and Mr. Gurley, I assume you want
Yeah,
to
I
make that
will.
motion?
Yeah, okay.
And have it worded
Yeah, I've got
like
it.
you would like.
I've got it.
And if I
Go ahead.
understood you correctly, 100
19,000.
that's per hangar.
No, that's all of it.
That's,
We're not I want to be clear, we're not building the hangar yet. What this does is, this designs,
Okay.
we've got to have an apron area that's got to be constructed, and you've got to have taxi lanes and things like that. What it does do is, it does do all the site work for the 4 hangars. And then if somebody comes in, if you remember, we've had this discussion about whether we should continue to build them all ourselves and own them and then lease the hangar, or whether we should do what's called a ground lease to someone, and then they build the hangar themselves. So they come up with the upfront money, but at the end of the term, whatever we determine that might be, let's say it's 30 years, the hangar reverts back to the airport, or to the county.
From my understanding, all we are approving here is a contract to design it.
That's right.
Okay.
And there's quite a few things involved. As you read through it, you'll see why the price is such, because there's so many federal regulations you've got to go through to evaluate this thing. And he gives you an hour-by-hour breakdown on the people that need to be doing it too.
All right, they'll be here at our 9 o'clock.
That's right. And to my knowledge, that's all the adjustments, unless, Martha, did I miss anything? Yeah, the one we're adding.
Okay, those are the adjustments. 9:15, we're gonna have public comments. 9:30, we have a public hearing to receive public comments on a request from Braswood Ventures to rezone 13.07 acres tract at the end of Eagle Place from light industry to residential 15.
Yes, sir. The property would be proposed for a residential development, 18 lots. You haven't seen the preliminary for it. Their preliminary has gone before the planning board, but they need this rezoning. They're requesting this rezoning. This property was the former Methodist Men's property. They purchased the entire site. I think the Methodist Men moved into a separate building. They own the large building there as well. That's stay in light industry. The area that you see in red is the area they're asking for the rezoning, and they would be putting an extension on the Rosewood Valley subdivision, which is the R15 zoned area, and access would be through Eagle Place. So as you see, you've got this site is surrounded by forestry on the west and RA20 zoning. On the south by some community shopping with some businesses down there along Rosewood Road, and then R15 zoning on the east side. So we'd like to extend that R15 zone over into that track. This is within the Rosewood High School, Rosewood Middle, Rosewood Elementary School District. Fort Sanitary for water. It's serviced by Rosewood Fire Department, EMS Station 2. It is within Goldsboro MPO for transportation plan, and it is within a water supply watershed. Their proposed development does meet the requirements for water supply watershed. There are no voluntary ag districts present. There are some wetlands present, and they have dealt with those on the preliminary. It is within Board of Commissioners District 4. We advertised it in the newspaper. We posted a sign on site, and we notified all adjoining property owners by first-class mail. I have received one call concerning it and opposing it. So they just did not want that type of development or unknown development happening behind them. That's the only call I did receive on it. If you have any questions.
I have a question. So this proposed will butt up to the existing Mercy site?
Yes. There is a buffer we require in our subdivision ordinance, because that's an industrial use or commercial use, a buffer that be a 25-foot buffer that's vegetated that will be maintained there between the existing building and the new proposal.
So what will be the final length of that street that cuts into it?
It needs to, I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head, but it needs to, it's not, it doesn't go beyond our minimum, our maximum.
Okay, that's fine.
There's
Okay, any other
18 lots. There is a blue line ditch that runs through the property. Those lots are larger lots due to that blue line and the required setbacks off of that blue line of 50 feet, so.
Okay, any more questions on it? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, appointment committee?
We have several today.
No unfinished business. Under the consent agenda, we have approval of applications for disabled veteran property exclusion, elderly and disabled property tax exclusion, and applications for property tax present use value. All of those matters have been...
They're in order.
They're all in order, and all of them have been researched and do meet our guidelines.
Right.
Establish a public hearing on December the 5th to receive public comments on the proposed Wayne County Special Events Ordinance. We failed to do that at our last meeting, but this would in fact establish that public hearing for December the 5th at 9:30 a.m. Item 5 is to establish a meeting of the Wayne County Board of Adjustment on December the 5th, 9:30 a.m. to receive public comments for a special use permit request for Hood Solar Farm.
Yes, sir. This is a solar farm proposed for Mark Edwards Road and Hood Swamp Road. It's on the northern two corners of the property between Mark Edwards on both sides of the road. It is a 5 megawatt facility on 38.1 acres. Of course, it is across 2 parcels of land. It will be interconnected to Duke Progress. The site is currently agricultural. There are a couple of residences in front of it. The site owner owns those residences. It meets all the setback requirements that we have in our ordinance, meets all the requirements of the Wayne County ordinance. As part of the evidence supporting to approval of this project, we have included in your package the site plan, the application, the ground lease agreement between the property owner and the developer, the interconnection request, the decommissioning plan, the input from Seymour Johnson, where it has been through Seymour Johnson Air Force Base review, and there are some blue line ditches that they dealt with, and we included that documentation, and they are utilizing those setbacks on those blue lines as appropriate. Public hearing for the Board of Adjustment would be necessary to be scheduled. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer for you.
I take it this has gone through the planning board, and they
Oh,
already
yes, sir.
approved it.
Planning Board has approved it and recommended approval for it.
All right, any questions with Chip? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item is a resolution designation of applicant's agent to execute and file applications for federal and/or state assistance. What in the world?
That's-
Page 115.
That's a FEMA requirement. So we need to fill that out so that Mel and I can apply for the assistance.
Okay. So you need to get approval of the board for that.
That's correct.
Okay, any questions on that matter? Okay, item 7 is permission to use NCGS 143.129 for emergency purchase of 2 chillers.
Okay. I don't know if I've got the information. You gave it to me?
Yep, we got a memo on that.
I got too much paper up here. Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, what we've got, we talked at the last meeting about an emergency purchase. One of the chillers in the jail had gone down, and we looked at that. We want to make an emergency purchase. What we have found is that, as Murphy's Law would have it, to get to the one that's broken, you've got to move the one that's all right. Both of them are about 25 to 26 years old, so they're past their useful life. One has died, the other is close to dying. What we're recommending is, rather than spending good money after bad, is when we take the first one out, we would like to also replace it, because we think it'll cost more money to have to do all the attachments and everything and put in valves and things that weren't here already. It'll cost more to do that, and then 2-3 years down the road, when it dies, we gotta go back in and redo the whole thing and put in another one. So we feel like the best thing to do is to buy 2 of them. Kendall has gotten 3 prices here. Piedmont Service Group is $275, $344. Brady Train Services is $297, $853. All Red Mechanical Services is $375,105. So for $275,344, we can replace both of them, and we recommend that you do that. Kendall's here. Anything you want to add, or does anyone have any questions on that?
Question.
Go ahead.
When you put the new ones back in, where you be able to engineer it so that, if you break down another 20 years, you'll be able to get to the other unit without having to take the other one out? Is that gonna be possible?
I don't know, because they're in a building. Is that possible?
Okay. I just was asking the question.
But we will have valves and everything where it'll be a lot easier to take one in and out.
Okay.
So that'll be part of this contract. Is that not right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Aycock.
These 2 new units, because at some point, we're talking about renovating the jail. These 2 units will be suitable or capable of doing what renovations and all we're gonna do?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're sizing them the same size. It's never been an issue of the size and the output. It's just that they've aged out, basically.
And I think I heard that, these units is 26 years old? And probably won't install right to start with? Okay. Well, it's amazing they lasted 26 years then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions on? All right, and now for budget amendments.
Well, with that, I should
I'm
have pointed
sorry.
out, with that, when we do have a budget amendment, we need to move $25,877 from maintenance and repairs, building and grounds, to building structures and improvements. So Kendall has that money within the budget, and then the rest of it we already have in the proper line item to cover this.
All right, so can we amend our item 7 to include a budget amendment?
Yes,
Oh, that's right, it does say the
an
appropriate
appropriate
budget.
budget amendment. But I just wanted to let you know what the dollar figure was on there. Okay,
Okay,
all right.
budget amendment. We're starting on page 117.
Number 148 is for the health department. It's the Young Families Connect grant, and it's to reduce that program due to just reduced funding from the state. Number 166 is the sheriff's department, and this is to anticipate and appropriate donations, $2,560. Number 167 is to appropriate the funds for the 21st Century Grant with 4-H. This grant runs from October through next September. Number 168 is a health department grant for TB control. Is to appropriate an additional $458 that has been given to them for that grant. And then finally, number 175, this is EMS Net, is to appropriate funds to purchase mobile and portable radios and the chargers.
I don't recall that one. Can we get a little explanation on 175? Because I don't recall that one. I thought we had, in fact, purchased, Mr. Wood.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I was muting this.
No problem. On budget amendment 175, I thought we'd already handled the radios.
This is the equipment, the equipment that's needed to install in the additional units that have been purchased, ambulance units.
The new units for
The new
Wayne
units.
Net.
This is nothing to do with the previous acquisition of radios.
Right.
This is for new equipment, new vehicles that we bought that's got to have radios.
Where we added that for Wayne Net, I think we've added 3 vehicles, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that. It was for the new vehicles. That's the reason I was asking.
I mean, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else on that? Anything else to add to the consent agenda? New business. I have been informed that Commissioner Bell will have to be leaving just before 10 o'clock for a doctor's appointment. So with that in mind, I'd like to make some adjustments, moving some of these items around, in that we do need the full board approval on items 7 and 8. So I'd like to go ahead and take up 7 and 8, move those if we can to items, actually 1 and 2.
Okay.
In speaking with council, the other items do not necessarily need to have full board here for those approvals. But he does recommend that items 7 and 8 be taken up while we have the full board. So we're gonna be moving those to 1 and 2. Next item, well, let me go through those two. The first item will be the motion to approve a resolution designating exempt and non-exempt employees of the county of Wayne. Mr. Wood.
Okay, I've given you a fairly detailed memo. Let me go through that. As you know, we've discussed for several months, the U.S. Department of Labor was amending the administrative regulations regarding the income threshold criteria in the determination of whether an employee can be classified as exempt from the overtime provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act. U.S. Department of Labor has approved that change, and it becomes effective on December 1. This change raises the income threshold from $23,660 currently to $47,476, which is a 100% increase. This is kind of unheard of that they would raise it anything by 100% in 1 year. Obviously, this is a dramatic increase. It means that if any of our positions do not meet this salary threshold, even if they meet all other criteria to be exempt, that position cannot be classified as exempt. All employees are non-exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act's provisions requiring they be paid for overtime hours worked, unless the employer can prove that they meet all the criteria for one of 4 exemption classifications. There used to be just 3, but now there's 4: executive, administrative, professional, learned, and professional computer. I've attached a sheet showing these criteria for your reference. Non-exempt employees are eligible to receive overtime pay, time and 1/2 the regular rate of pay, for hours worked over the normal 40-hour work week. There is an exception for public safety personnel who can be paid overtime for hours worked beyond 171 hours in a 28-day work period instead of work week. Only hours actually worked are used to compute the hours for overtime purposes. Exempt employees are not required to be paid for overtime. The manager's office and the Human Resources Department have reviewed all of our currently exempt positions and have applied the new salary threshold. In doing so, we have listed those positions for your approval as exempt that meet the new criteria. We did look at some positions that were just below the threshold to see if we should move them up in salary to make them exempt. In looking at that, we do not recommend any positions for this. One other change is the U.S. DOL regulations is that overtime hours cannot be given as compensatory time, which we do a lot of that now, unless the employee agrees. This means that overtime will have to be paid, so that will also impact our budget. The attached resolution makes these necessary changes. It also amends the position and classification plan to convert annual dollar amounts to hourly rates for those positions that are non-exempt, so that it is clear that they are paid by the hour, not a salary. They have always been paid by the hour to comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act, but this change will make it clear. In addition, advertisements for non-exempt jobs will post the hourly rates of pay. Please call me if you have any questions or concerns on this matter. So if you go to the next page, this is a sheet that has the criteria for each one of those exemptions. And so those are the rules you have to apply. And again, for every one of these positions that we're saying is exempt, we have to meet the criteria for one of those 4 exemptions. Everybody clear on that? If you can't,
This is clear
they're
as mud.
hourly. They're non-exempt. Okay. So the resolution, the next page is the resolution itself. And so, skipping all the whereases, it's now therefore be it resolved by the Wayne County Board of Commissioners as follows. Section 1, that the positions listed on attachment A to this resolution are hereby designated as exempt from the overtime provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act and shall be paid a salary instead of by the hours worked. All other employees shall be non-exempt from the overtime provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act and shall be paid for their hours worked as required by the Fair Labor Standards Act and the Wayne County Personnel Policy. The Human Resources Director is hereby authorized and directed to amend the existing pay grade for grades 52 through 74 inclusive by converting the annual payment amount to the corresponding hourly rate so that there is no confusion over which positions are paid by the hour and which are paid by a fixed salary. This will not result in any change in pay for any current employee. It becomes effective on December 1. We made that effective date because that's the date these regulations take effect. And then the next page, page 144, that's the actual list of the employees that are exempt under our plan. And you'll notice that we put in the far right column exemption duties test. That tells which one of these they met. So if DOL challenged us on any one, we've got which test we say applies to it. So I think there's about 41 positions. The rest of them are hourly. And the big change is that we did have some folks who were salaried that don't meet that new income threshold. So it did have an impact on us. And that's basically what we have there.
I think we put this off just as long as we could. This goes into effect the first of the month.
That's right.
We were hoping that they would lower that threshold, and it did not do so. So we're going to have to go ahead
Right.
and comply with the new regulations that go into effect.
That's exactly right. They've delayed it twice. We were hoping frankly they'd delay it again, but they haven't. And so this is the last meeting before they take effect, so we've got to put something in place. If they do come back later and modify it, lower the threshold or whatever, we can come back and amend this. But we've got to be in compliance with it. This is not, there's nothing optional about this. This is federal wage and hour law.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, the second item that we're going to be bringing up first would be the item 8, which is now item 2, motion to adopt resolution defining indigent care.
I'm going to defer to the county attorney since he wrote this.
All right, this is on page 157.
When the hospital was given to the...
145.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah, 145.
Excuse me,
145.
145.
When the county conveyed the hospital to the corporation that now operates the hospital, the agreement, the deed and the agreement to convey was contingent upon the new corporation providing indigent care. The care was, indigent was defined in that as indigents that were under a certain federal law that was providing information and money to hospitals. That law doesn't exist anymore, and so the agreement says that the county commissioners can define indigent care. The hospital itself has several funds that they use for indigent care. What this proposal is that you define indigents as those that were treated as indigents at the time the hospital was conveyed, and also that were treated as indigents as by the hospital on January 1, 2015, January 1, 2016, and all detainees of the Wayne County Sheriff minus any insurance, Medicare, Medicaid that they might have. The agreement also indicates that the hospital will indemnify the county for any actions brought against the county for anything dealing with this conveyance. And so what this proposal does is to identify the term indigent patient.
For purpose of clarification, when it states indemnification, am I understanding that the hospital will provide us with a defense?
That is what the agreement says, and that is what, if the county were sued, the county would ask the hospital to indemnify it pursuant to that agreement.
Okay. So if anybody challenged that, then the hospital would have to actually indemnify us in the event that we were found any liability.
That is my belief as to that is what the law is, and that's what the agreement was when the county conveyed the property.
Okay. Comments, questions? Well, you must have done a very good job of explaining that. Okay, we're now gonna go back over to what is now labeled as item 1, which will now be 3. Motion to approve Spring Forest preliminary subdivision plat. And item 2, I think, is also tied with that, which is an approval of Spring Forest Phase 1 final subdivision plat.
Bless you.
Yeah, if we will, we'll just wait and go over that at the meeting, if that'd be okay. It is a preliminary approval. All this has gone through the planning board, preliminary approval, and then from there, Phase 1 to final. So that's item 3 and 4. Item 5 now is going to be a motion to award the bid for debris cleaning and removal services. And we, in fact, have already gone through that,
Right.
what those bids are.
That's right.
Item 4, which is now going to be 6, motion to award the bid for disaster management and recovery monitoring services.
I think we told you at the last meeting that to be compliant with FEMA, we have to have 2 contracts. One is to actually pick up the debris. The other is to have a contract to monitor the guy picking up the debris. And so that's, we wouldn't do it, but we have to do this to get FEMA to pay for it. So, anyway, that's basically what this does.
All right, so we're required to do it. So
We're
we need
required to
do
do it in order to be reimbursed, and so we have done that. And I think we've got 3. We got 3. What we're recommending is Whit O'Brien, because all of them, we ask for it on an hourly rate, because it's hard to know, nobody's gonna give you a firm price because they don't know how much debris is out there and how much they're gonna need. What I did ask in the motion is that you authorize this and let the emergency management director determine that, so that he's in charge of the contract and telling them how much they can do of each type of position. Otherwise, they'll try to do more. They could try to do more than is necessary.
Please draft out the motion as you would like it made.
Okay, all right.
Any questions on that? All right, item 5, which is now 7, is a motion to award bid for a DDC controls for 5 Wayne County buildings.
Okay.
Page 133.
I'm going to defer to Kendall on this one, but we did get 5 bids on it. You want to go over that? Yes, sir.
The DDC controls, that's a direct digital controls that controls our air conditioning systems. It's basically the thermostat for 5 buildings versus there being a thermostat on the wall in each building. It is on our computers. We can remotely control those and the airflows and temperatures and whatnot. And that's just, we just rebid that out to several different companies, and Brady Train won that bid.
Not to belabor the point, my understanding was several months back, we wanted to make a change there. We were not able to because the contract wouldn't allow us to until a
That's
certain
correct.
period of time.
That's right.
That time's expired now,
Yes,
so we
sir.
put it out for bids.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions on that?
And you'll see this is a savings over what we had been paying.
That was gonna be my question, what kind of savings are we looking at?
It was about 6 times that last year. What would the lowest be?
6 times?
6 times. It's about $13,000. This time it was 65 last time. Yes, sir.
That's
65,000?
That was my question.
That's why we were trying to get out of it.
That's why we wanted that.
Well, good. That's a big savings.
That was my question.
Okay, so I think we answered our question.
So the method of doing this process is not new. This was done to save the money.
Yes, sir.
And so all the buildings are accustomed to you all doing that.
Yes, sir.
Well, that makes this a little bit more comfortable because oftentimes, I know in the school system years ago, some things were controlled from somewhere else, and everyone complained about not being able to have the kind of heat they needed in a particular building because it was controlled someplace else.
Yes, sir.
So you've been in the business of controlling this, all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I should point out too, we've also done away with space heaters. We had a multitude of space heaters around here, and that was affecting the electrical system, because everybody wanted to do just what you said, Ed. Everybody wanted to have their individual room at a different temperature, and we just can't do that.
So and I just, one final question is, we have spent a winter without the space heaters? Have we gone through a winter yet without the space heaters?
That was last.
That was, when did we do that?
Most of the last winter without.
I guess it was last.
Well, I was just checking,
Yeah.
Kim, to see how many bricks you were gonna get thrown at you, and once the weather turned cold in the space. All right.
He got them last year.
You got them last year, so you got them already, because this is a sensitive issue
It
with
is.
folks. I just wanted not to.
Yeah, let's move along before bricks start flowing out. All right, item 8 is a motion to award bid for waste removal services at Wayne County facilities.
So we had not bid this out in some time, and the city approached us about the possibility of doing this pickup. This is the commercial dumpsters at our various facilities. And so we bid it out, and the low bid is Waste Industries. It's a little bit more than we're paying now, but that's because we've added a couple of facilities. So it's probably in line with what we were doing before. But we have bid it out formally, and they're the low bidder.
All right, any questions on that matter? Okay, then dropping down to item 9, which now becomes 10. I don't know, I must have miscounted here. But anyway, motion to approve a guaranteed maximum price contract to include additional subcontractor components from the Maxwell Regional Agricultural Convention Center.
Right.
And we've gone through that.
That's the one I went through, and they're here today if you have any questions.
All right, we're going to discuss that at that time, when that's brought up, if that's okay. Next item is North Carolina Association of County Commissioners video that's going to be shown. Well, and then we've got item 11, which is approval of the contract for professional services. So let's move 11 to 10 if we can, and then the last thing we'll have is the video. Okay, any other items to be added to the agenda?
I think that's everything.
Think that's everything? Give you a big smile. Okay, with that in mind then, we're gonna have a closed session today?
Yes.
Do we have time in 5 minutes to do it? You wanna try?
Council to
Well, we're not gonna try, if you don't mind, because I have another pressing engagement that I must attend to. So, if you don't mind, let us have our closed session, later in our, if that's okay with everyone. All right, we are now going to take a recess and come back in, at 9 o'clock. Thank you.